Welcome to Cordkillers. The world of entertainment is turned upside down, and we're just trying to find out how to watch what we want, where we want, whenever we want. I'm Tom Merritt. Ryan, where's the good stuff?
Tom Merritt, doggone it. I had this whole thing and I didn't switch over to picture. I also pulled off my glasses in a cool way. It would have been amazing. A whole bit we had lined up.
It was a good attempt. Good attempt. Anyway, we killed all the cords. Come and get us, coppers. But we're trying to make up for it by helping you figure out this post-apocalyptic landscape of television watching, starting with a supply run.
Supply run, supply run, supply run.
Hey, Brian.
Yes?
I don't know if you realize this, but things have changed.
Boy, have they. Tom, I'm beginning to notice that it's a little bit wobbly, a little bit noisy out there. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like the smartest move anybody could do to stand out from the crowd is show up live as much as possible, because there's a lot of weird stuff out there.
There's a lot of weird stuff. And you know what? I think only a few people are brave enough to say this. But creators are the new stars. Well, user-generated content is not something to be dismissed anymore.
Go on.
It's the creators are the new studios, Brian. You can fight it all you want, but YouTube CEO Neal Mohan said it in his annual letter to the YouTube community.
Oh, I was about to say, this sounds like a song I've heard before. I think I'm familiar with the chorus on this one.
Yeah, actually, I really liked Neal Mohan's letter, so I shouldn't throw too much shade on it.
I was about to say, man, it's like, to be honest, it was a beacon of hope in an otherwise tumultuous time.
The headlines out of it was like, YouTube CEO declares creators the new stars in studios. And I'm like, yeah, he did say that, but it wasn't like he was saying it for the first time. He was just, I think that was directed not towards the creators who know that, but towards the people who are the business people, the people who are funding things, the people in Hollywood who are making things like, hey, YouTube is for all sizes of screens. It's not just for your phone. It's not just for your TV. It's not just for long form. It's not just for short form. It's for all of those. In that letter, Mohan also threw out that YouTube TV is going to offer fully customizable multiview. So you can put whatever you want in the multiview. As we heard before, they're going to do 10 new niche plans. So if you don't want all of YouTube TV, you could get just the sports stuff or just the entertainment stuff. So they're going to have 10 of those. We don't know what they all will be, but one assumes sports, entertainment, news, stuff like that. Not mentioned in the letter, but indicative of YouTube's sway, BBC confirming it's going to make content for its YouTube channels. So right now, BBC makes content, and then they'll put some of it on their YouTube channels. They are going to make original content specifically for BBC's YouTube channels. They're also going to launch some new channels aimed at children and young adults. They're going to partner with YouTube to invest in some UK creators, do some skills training, stuff like that. Back to just YouTube in general, they're also adding more parental controls and detailing more ways for creators to earn things like shopping, brand deals, fan funding, stuff they have, but expansions on those. And of course, he had to mention artificial intelligence. He said this year you'll be able to create a short using your own likeness, produce games with a simple text prompt, and experiment with music. He noted that 6 million daily viewers have seen a video that was auto-dubbed into their language so that they could understand it. He wants to equip creators with tools to manage their likeness so that if someone creates a generated version of them, they can either prohibit it or use it or get monetization from it, etc. He said to reduce the spread of low-quality AI content, we are actively building on our established systems that have been very successful in combating spam and clickbait. So playing both sides of that argument, saying, hey, this stuff can create lots of stuff. We want to empower creators to use it for that. But we also know that it can be abused and we want to stop the abuse.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I found the tone, and of course, all of this, I'm certain, is very, very managed and probably polished up by a robot or whatever. But I think it was warm and reassuring and familiar. You know, obviously, YouTube talked the talk about empowering creators since its creation at the beginning, with varying levels of degrees of follow through. But in general, I think that it, number one, acknowledged that the shape of YouTube is changing and they're making slow, subtle moves, I suppose, partly because they're in such a massive dominant position. They are, you'll notice like YouTube doesn't need to be the star of the show. It doesn't need to remind you that YouTube exists. It is a verb. It is the noun. It is a place. It is not an entity that wants the spotlight. But
they are just shy of being a WordPress, where it's just a place where you publish your videos, right?
Or a medium.com or a Substack.
A little more than that. Yeah, they are more in that vein of Substack or Medium. Absolutely.
Now, one thing that slipped right by is it says empowering people to use their likeness for short form videos. Does that sound like anything familiar to you, Tom?
It sounds Sora familiar to something I know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a straight up press release for a Sora competitor, which I think will be interesting. Whether, I don't know from a branding perspective, whether or not it's in YouTube's interest to splinter off AI generated short form content into a different category other than shorts, or if they just have an AI tag and allow it to go into the shorts feed and then allow users to sort of, by their behaviors, indicate whether or not they're into it or not.
I feel like the music platforms are pioneering this. Bandcamp has a flat out restriction on any kind of music that is made substantially or majority with a generative model. They're not banning you from using the tools. They're just saying if you're trying to say no AI slop on Bandcamp. There's some other like Coda is a smaller music platform that says we'll allow AI slop all day, but we're giving the users the chance to filter it and say, like, if we think it's AI slop, can you just not serve it for me? So I think YouTube will probably do something like that, where they either shuttle it off into its own corner or give you a switch that says, I don't want to see it if it was generated. Keep it away from me, whether it's slop or not, right? Because I think they're trying to walk that line finally of knowing that a lot of people in the audience do not want to see anything AI generated. A lot of creators in their creator community do not want to allow people to use AI tools. But there are also a lot of people who want to take advantage of these and want to play around with them. And the way YouTube manages it is probably going to be seen as a standard, whatever they do. It's I think other platforms will take a cue from them.
So while you're seeing if you could get your video restarted, let me speculate wildly as I want to do. I worry about an AI switch being an overcorrection, because I feel like it reminds me a bit of our obsession with CGI, and a lot of the arguments. Many people are not old enough to remember the backlash against CGI from back in the day, shortly after Jurassic Park did the pioneering heavy lifting. And at the time, there was a lot of breathless pronouncements of CGI can never blank or blank. Some of them correct, some of them incorrect. But there was also a familiar kind of knee-jerk backlash against the trappings of it in general, and none of it really seemed to stick. Instead, we've seen over the years various degrees. There are some movies that are just CGI glob fests where it's hard to even really tell, everything's so rubbery what's going on, and others do a lot of practical effects. The canonical example of the best fusion of the two was James Cameron's Titanic, where there's lots of practical effects and the right amount of CGI, but that made it very, very expensive to make. So whether or not we see any kind of like hard opt-out on AI, I'll be curious to know whether or not that happens. Tom, were you able to get video back, or are we in limbo?
Well, I have it back on my end. I guess I just need to reload vMix.
Okay. So all right. Well, here, we'll pause and we'll do an edit on this later. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Okay. Love that. It's the best. I have no idea what you said about Jurassic Park.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, basically I said that there was an era. What I worry about is an overcorrection. Right now, we're in the middle of an AI pushback that reminds me an awful lot of, for those of us old enough to remember, the anti-CGI push that happened after Jurassic Park. And of course, there was a natural sifting of some things were crazy, everything is wackadoodle CGI. Others things were a good blend of practical effects and judicious use of CGI. And I'm glad that nobody got a tattoo of like no CGI forever, because they'd look a little silly now. But I suspect that there are. I suspect there are and no AI tattoos out there already.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities to that. I also compare it to synthesizers in music a lot of times, where people were very like, synthesizers are not real music back in the late 70s. And now synthesizers are just something people use or don't use, depends on what kind of music you're trying to make. I think a lot of these tools are going to end up being that way. I think there's a real concern about slop in the sense of people making low effort content and spamming us with it, right? Trying to game the system. And I think YouTube is right to make sure that they can try to prevent that from happening, and yet enable creators to make the high effort stuff. The 30,000 foot view here, though, is I know 10 years ago when we were doing Cordkillers, because we have been doing it that long, I looked at YouTube stories as kind of fringe Cordkiller stuff. It was like, that's user generated content and it's its own thing and it's legitimate. And I don't want to cast shade on it, but it's different than what we're talking about on Cordkillers. What we're talking about on Cordkillers is like high level movies and high level TV shows. We didn't talk a lot about reality shows, and I kind of classed YouTube as sort of like near that. And so we'd mention it occasionally, the way we would occasionally mention a reality show. But I have to say, reality shows have upped their production values, and so has YouTube. And it's really interesting to watch the slow merging of the two. I hear people say like, YouTube is TV now. And I'm like, YouTube is a large part of TV. It's a larger part of everyone's TV than it used to be, and it's going to get bigger. But TV is also becoming YouTube, and you hear less about that. I think we are getting to a point where YouTube is going to face a crisis at some point of, does it want to just be a platform, right? Should it take YouTube TV and merge it in? Should you be able to just watch Peacock and Apple TV on YouTube the way you watch everything else? Or does it always want to be a service that you watch alongside that? And I think that's a conversation that Amazon has, and Apple has, and even Netflix is starting to have.
I am so curious, because my gut instinct is to not try to be the everything app. And I know if YouTube was its own company still, even in the dominant position where it is, it might be tempted to try to keep on growing the way Netflix is trying to keep on growing. But now Netflix is bumping up against the top limit of what it means to be a Netflix, and now it risks becoming something else altogether. And
you see them adding video podcast, which is them trying to be YouTube, right?
Exactly, right?
In their own way. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's smart for YouTube to be cautious and to reassure humans that their human-centric things will be rewarded for being human. He says, hopefully, hoping that great algorithms smile upon this very program.
Sure. Yeah, no kidding. It is interesting to be inside the machine, criticizing the machine and trying to figure it out. But I do find myself able to be like, I don't really, if I take away what I care about for myself and just be like, looking down the road, I don't even care what YouTube decides to do. There are going to be cultural forces that will push viewing to become something. I know I'm stealing a little galaxy brain.
Oh no, there's plenty to go around. I like Tom flavored galaxy brain.
Yeah. But it's we are going to watch what we want to watch. With that, I think we've proven that, right? Like what we want to watch will guide things. Everyone thought Netflix was stupid for putting streaming video. They're like, they're a great DVD by mail company, but who's going to ever stream video? How will you ever get the rights to things? How will you ever have the bandwidth? And the fact that we all were like, yeah, but we want to do it, made it happen. It made Hulu happen. It made YouTube increase from where it was and changed what YouTube was. So what we want will eventually focus that landscape and we'll push that landscape. It'll take longer or shorter depending on what companies do, but it will get there. And I'm not sure what we're going to end up wanting. I'm not sure we even know what we want.
Well, and that's the big thing is we are in the herky-jerky adolescent phase. And that means we have to do, as consumers, our job is to identify a lot of things that we don't want. We don't know what we want, but it's not that, and it's not that, and it's not that. But meanwhile, if we're getting all galaxy brain about it, I can picture kind of a strata, not necessarily a two-tiered system, but basically as a consumer, we'll have different flavors of YouTube that we're prepared for. At the high end will be people who are using their 6K cameras and their robotic arms and their perfect LUTs that make it look cinematic and the auteurs level of the tower, as Stephen King might put it. And then meanwhile, there'll be a general enhancement to the level of the tower where we are right now. Right now, this is a video podcast to everybody watching on YouTube at youtube.com/modernrogue. They're seeing just two talking heads and some decent enough vMix work to get us through it. But all things being equal, I wouldn't mind it if Cordkillers still had all the passionate energy, the debate, everything that we do on the show. But meanwhile, let's say, and this is full galaxy brain for 10 seconds, picture you take your phone, run all the way around your entire room and set, and now it's like, got it. I know what a Tom room looks like. Brian does the same thing over here. And then from this point, now scan your face. Great, got it. And now at this point, having a robot essentially cut it as though we had three cameras in the same studio together in a virtual place, I don't know that we would be taking anything away from our discussion for having that richer, deeper audio. And everybody will know it's fake. Nobody will fear that they're being fooled. No more than people in the 1950s felt like they were being suckered when color TV came along. What, am I supposed to believe that's red? I don't know.
Yeah, people stopped ducking when the train came on the movie screen very quickly, right? That didn't stick around. No, I think you're right. I think that element of creation is going to continue to evolve, and I think it will change the gap between like the auteur stuff and the raw stuff. I'm tempted to say narrow it, but I'm not even sure it'll be narrowed so much as just changed. Like, I will expect this kind of a broadcast from a talk show versus this kind of a feeling from a drama versus this kind of thing from an animation. Just the way we have different animation styles now. It's not like animation is one thing. You'll have different styles of video, some low quality on purpose because that's the aesthetic.
Can I plant my flag? But by the way, you're already seeing an indication of this, Tom. In 2026, YouTube added a feature upon uploading your video. There's a little checkbox that says allow YouTube to make it better, to enhance audio, to enhance video. Again, like, for example, let's say you shot something either horizontal or vertical and it wants to be in the other way. There's no reason that some generative fill just to make it not distracting.
Yeah, add some extra trees on the side so it looks good horizontal. Yeah,
right. Totally. The pretty much threshold. But here's my prediction. This was a sacred phrase in television, and I predict it will be sacred again. Blank was filmed in front of a live studio audience. That unambiguity of that's real laughter of however many people in the room. What are you pointing behind?
That's my live studio audience.
Wait, you have a live studio audience, Cam?
No, this stuffed animal.
Oh, got it. No, but my point being is that will become a marker of the social proof in an age where we fear being suckered or confused or overly bubbled or overly catered to. I think that if there's definitely 500 people in that room laughing their ass off, then this is probably, give or take, the authentic experience.
Yeah. Gen Z and Gen Alpha are already starting to demand authenticness. Like they don't want smooth edges. They don't want polish. They enjoy seeing the shaky, held my camera in my hand while I did it. Because I think they grew up in a world where anybody could make something look high end. And our old Gen X brains still associate that with quality because that's what we were raised on. Gen Alpha brains are like, no, that's associated with I'm trying to fool you. I associate shaky cam with I didn't try anything. This is authentically what I was doing at the time. And it's going to be interesting to see that permeate into the aesthetic for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Death from Below points out that it's easy to fake a live audience, though, but it's, of course it is, but also that's why it'll also be more important to authenticate it as real.
It's why it was controversial that MASH had a laugh track, because MASH was not filmed before a live studio audience, and it was a very dramatic show, but it was also a comedy. And the network won, like, no, we need to have the laugh track so people know when to laugh and when not to. But we grew up with that. We knew when it was really a live studio audience and when it was a laugh track. What we didn't know at the time was the live studio audience had a big sign that said when to laugh and had a hype man come out beforehand and say, hey, these guys really feed off you. They want to have a good time. You want to go to have a good time. So if you feel like laughing at all, let it out. Like priming the audience to laugh as much as possible, which is not authentic, right? But it was basically what needed to happen to make that work. And so we've always had that, I guess, is my point. It's not like that's anything new.
That is such an important thing to remember. This is where, as we get older, we start to get wise, Tom, and we're able to point out to the idea of people are like, I liked it the way it used to be. And it's like, no, it was always weird. It was weird when the audience was primed to laugh and overreact. It was weird when there was no audience and it was a tape laughing. It was weird when they took away the fake audience laughing tape in the early 2000s. It was weird when it was always weird. It's always weird, and there's always anxieties.
Yeah, indeed. The other thing I took away from this, again, getting back to that merging of TV and YouTube, is less from the creation side and more from the consumption side. And going back to a little bit of that Galaxy Brain stuff from earlier, I know when I sit down, I want to be able to watch what I want easily. I almost feel like that needs to work its way into our mission statement. I don't want to just watch what I want when I want. I don't want to work hard to find it. And that's where I wonder, Brian, if YouTube is tempted to be the platform for everything because they can make it easy. Their algorithm is very good at knowing what you want to watch next with the stuff that it has. Imagine if it was also able to include Prime Video and Peacock and Paramount and HBO Max, and if they could convince them Netflix and say, yeah, you sit down and what you want to watch next will show up at the top of your screen.
That would be interesting. What if the same YouTube algorithm that we all curse became a benefit? And like, I could picture an ad campaign where it's like, there's a lot of TV out there. Let the YouTube algorithm work for you. Now the YouTube algorithm with this subscription will reach out and pull your favorite programming from Peacock, from Paramount Plus, from.
Yeah, it already does that with what it can. So I have seen it suggest you should watch Harry Potter movie because it's in your catalog. I've seen it suggest NBA stuff because I had an NBA TV subscription attached to YouTube at one point. It's odd to me that they haven't tried to integrate YouTube TV and YouTube proper more than they have. I'm guessing it's they don't want to spook off their partners in YouTube TV by merging it too much. But eventually they'll have enough leverage to say like, hey, if you want any viewers, you'll let us do it because you'll get more viewers if we put it in front of YouTube.
Yeah.
Anyway, so,
one of the fans in the chat looks like a ham points out that what you're describing is the pirate content sites, which we are not unaware of. In general, it is our duty to report things as they are, but also we're rooting very hard for everyone to figure it out legally. Well, and for a while, it looked like that.
Are always the best at interface because they don't have to deal with any kind of business considerations other than getting money out of you. That's the only consideration they have because they're stealing all the rest of the content, right? So just kind of like, traditionally and almost legendarily, the porn industry is the determining factor on formats. We got VHS because the porn industry settled on it. A lot of people think the same thing happened with Blu-ray. People argue about that one. I feel like pirate sites give us the ideal interfaces. They give us the thing that everybody would like to work towards in the legal arena.
You know what? They are kind of, because they're an amoral platonic ideal. They are, you can literally look at, what if you didn't have any of that silly contract or obligations or money-making stuff to worry about? What if you just wanted the best? Great. They've done the work for you.
Yeah. And worth throwing out there, when the music industry got out of its own way and said, fine, Spotify, you can just stream all the music. We won't try to put Columbia music over here and Geffen music over there. We'll just give you all the music. Music piracy became much less attractive because it was much easier to be like, legally I can just pay $20 a month and get all the music I want without having to download things and pirate things and have things move around and handle torrent links. Sure, I'll do that instead. And streaming has been incredibly successful because of that. I don't know if TV and movies will ever learn the same lesson. It's a whole different situation, but the lesson is there. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the one lesson I wish everybody would learn is that if you really want to support creators, YouTube, here's an idea. Why don't you write a check? Make it out to Cordkillers, care of patreon.com/Cordkillers. Just $2 an episode. That's all we ask, YouTube. What? Oh, they're not, Tom, they're not taking my call. Where should,
should I write the check? Because you were convincing.
Oh, originally, I was thinking that YouTube should pay us directly, but it occurs to me, ultimately, the YouTube is just a reflection of the fans who are listening and watching.
Oh, yeah.
They can head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
We leave it on you. See, that's the mistake everybody makes. As soon as they're like, you have to pay us, everybody's like, no, I don't. But we're like, you don't have to pay us. You can just listen for free with ads. You can find it somewhere on the internet and listen for free however you want. Or you can say, you know what? I got some value out of what Brian and Tom were talking about. I disagreed with them, but it made me think about it in a new way. Or I got a piece of information I didn't know about to put in my own argument, to think about things. Or it helped me actually figure out how to do something easier. Whatever it is, if it was valuable to you, we just ask, think about how much value that is and support us at patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Yeah, get your own RSS feed, get early access to the full experience, and exclusive access to After Talk.
And now, the search party. Apple's first science fiction series was For All Mankind, or maybe it was C, kind of depends on how you think of it, but they came out pretty close to each other. And For All Mankind, still kicking. Season 5 coming March 27th. They almost didn't have to use as much makeup to make people look old because they've been stringing this one out so long.
Okay, now I hear, not just from you, Tom, but from other people, that show just keeps getting better and better. You were warm, generally warm, but not super hot on it when it came out. But from what I hear, it just gets awesomer and awesomer.
It simmers right up. Yeah, it is the kind of show that benefits from watching it from the beginning. Because you're basically seeing an alternate history. If you don't know the premise, the alternate history is the Soviets land on the moon first. And because of that, instead of having this period of minor lunar exploration while the Soviets pulled back and then we just stopped going to the moon until now, you have a space race because the US is like, well, we're going to land on the moon too. And the Soviets say, well, if we spend all this money to get on the moon, we're going to create a moon base. Well, if you're going to create a moon base, we're going to go to Mars. And so everything gets accelerated. And the Soviet Union does not fall because of this. This is a premise that's less about like what would have really happened and more, servicing the plot.
Right.
But okay, it's fun to play in that arena. And now we're headed into the 21st century, right? And it's interesting to see how they said, well, some things would have come earlier, like the iPod. I think it comes in the 90s instead of the 2000s. Some things won't come at all, though, because we had so much going into this space race. But they do colonize Mars, and we've got people who were some of the youngest, best and brightest who went to the moon in the 60s in season 1 are now your aging elders, helping the next generations with space exploration. It's really fun. It's a really fun series. It's not a like, oh, you're stupid if you missed it, but it's if you like alternate history or like space or both, you're gonna have a good time.
I do love anything that drives an accelerationist timeline. My favorite part of playing Civilization games is when you get to the spears versus tanks moment, and I love all that stuff.
We also have our first full trailer for MGM and Mattel's Masters of the Universe movie. It will be released in the U.S. June 5th by Amazon MGM and internationally by Sony. Did you take a look at He-Man?
I sure did, Tom. What did you think?
By the power of Grayskull, I thought it at least looks interesting. I was a big He-Man fan when I was a kid. It was one of those where I was like not quite too old to watch, and my younger brother was not quite too young to watch, so we could actually like watch it together. And enjoyed it. It looks like it's got a little camp, but it also looks right. I don't know. It looks like they captured the vibe a little bit.
It does a fantastic job, at least in the trailer. We'll see if the movie does, but solving what I think of as the Men in Black problem. Whenever there's a science fiction show and I'm like, that can't work, and I'm doing math and try to figure out why it's wrong, I think, well, you didn't have that problem with Men in Black. I'm like, no, because it primed me to not worry about all that. And so in the trailer, they make it clear like there's an adjacent universe to ours that is, the rules are just different and we don't know what they are. And the answer is go along with it. So as a result, it gives me the strong, never-ending story vibes where it's like you didn't worry about any of the incongruencies because this is in the next door universe, which I loved it. I liked what I saw. I'm in.
And no, G. James B., this does not continue from the previous live action movie. It's its own thing, as far as I understand.
Oh, it'd be great
Darth
if there was a
Maul,
nod to it, though, in there.
I bet there will be. They usually do in these sorts of things. Darth Maul standalone series premieres on Disney Plus April 6th. This is set after the Clone Wars arc of Maul, but before his appearance in Star Wars Rebels. So a very narrow keyhole to put your Darth Maul in. But there's a lot of Darth Maul fans out there, so I'm sure some folks are really going to enjoy this one.
I wonder, you know what? If somebody out there loves Darth Maul and loves stitching together a Darth Maul kind of as protagonist.
He got sliced.
Whoops. Yeah. All right. There's that too. Tell us what it's like as a fan. Hit us up at cordkillers@gmail.com.
American Idol is still a show, Brian. Did you know?
Man, I am so ready for something else.
Season 24 of American Idol is introducing social media voting. Back in 2002, 2002, they introduced text message voting along with phone calls. And now they're going to add social media voting. What could go wrong?
Just in time for when all the bots have ruined social media. Finally, it's fully colonizable.
I actually interviewed the guy who created the original American Idol voting system back in the day. I didn't interview him about that. He's a driver for accessibility and open standards, and I was talking to him about that. But I did ask him one question. I was like, which is harder, getting people to accept accessibility or handling American Idol voting? He's like, actually, American Idol voting was not as bad as you think. It was, it was technologically complex, but we were able to, we didn't get too many problems with that. K-pop Demon Hunters has 518.2 million views on Netflix. That's more than 500 million views in 6 months. Since July 2023, it has more than double the number of streams of any other title on Netflix. Super Mario Brothers movie is second with 241 million views. The biggest TV show was Squid Game Season 2 with 220.9 million streams.
Tom, I feel a strong moral obligation to remind people that when Netflix counts views, this is a fundamentally different animal from YouTube air quotes views. YouTube air quote views. If you see 3 seconds of it, that's a view. Viewer minutes are a different metric. For a view to count on Netflix, you have to have all the viewer minutes to total up the number of a full episode. So if they say 500 million views, I can't even fathom how many startings of K-pop Demon Hunter there are, or impressions, or any of your other fake metrics.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
And for this, because it's so popular with children, it means if your kid had it on repeat all day and watched it 6 times, that is 6 views.
Yeah.
That doesn't count just as 1 view, like, because they are going by the minutes. Just inexplicable to me how this niche passion project, I don't think Netflix expected it to break out this big as well, has broken out. And I know they've got to be scrambling to figure out what to do next.
That's another one. I almost, if you had co-signed it with a feverish, like very excited about it vibe, I would have watched it. But you were like, it's fine. I don't really get why it's...
I was like, I am familiar with the world, and so I got a lot of the jokes. It was a pretty predictable story arc, but it was well done. If you've got some time, it's an enjoyable view. But I did not expect it to become so dominant, and I think it has to do with the music. Honestly, I think people sampled it because it was on Netflix. It succeeded because it was in English, and it went over the top because people loved the music.
Yeah.
So there you go. Korean language titles across film and TV have amassed at least 4.5 billion streams since Netflix first started publishing views in what we watched in July 2023. So there's a bit of that as well. People just really like content made in Seoul. And K-pop Demon Hunters was a US Korea combination. They used a lot of Korean talent, both in front of and behind. Well, it's not the camera because it's animated, but you know what I mean.
K-pop Demon Hunters is the Dubai chocolate of anime.
Exactly. And Dubai chocolate got partly popular because it got so popular in Korea, which has now popularized the Dubai cookie, which is the next spin. It's a whole thing. Let's talk about The Traitors. Do you know about The Traitors?
No, but I do think...
The TV series.
I was about to say, are there people who want to resurrect the Cords? Where are they? Let us hunt them out.
It is a reality show, but it's basically mafia. It's like a game show where you play mafia. Contestants are cooperating for a cash prize, but there are traitors among them, and they only get the money if they can sabotage the other people from getting the prize, and you have to figure out who the traitors are.
This is sort of like Secret Hitler or any of those
Secret Hitler,
games?
Werewolf, Mafia.
Okay.
They're all the same premise. They just did a celebrity version of it, so I think it gained a little more attention because of that, and they are now adapting it for the stage. We are getting The Traitors in the West End in London. They are going to pull storylines from the reality game show and then reenact them basically on stage.
That's, to be honest, that's brilliant. I'm here for it. If the stories are there, we've talked a bit about how around the campfire there are certain archetypal stories, and everybody had a Hercules story because you just grabbed them. This seems like a Hercules kind of story, but then IP. And protectionist IPs change things, and now it's like, sure, like we saw with Andor. Give me a spy story. Is it a good story? Great. Wedge it, make it Star Wars somehow. Let's go.
Yeah, paint it with Star Wars. Speaking of which, Marvel has been under some criticism from folks because they feel like it's homework to watch a Marvel series. Wonder Man is the latest Marvel TV series out on Disney Plus, and people seem to like it. Mostly because it's not trying to tie itself to anything, that it's in the Marvel universe, but people are saying it's the studio, but in the Marvel universe. It's just a good, like, let's send up Hollywood comedy, but in the Marvel universe. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll get around to watching it or not, but this is making me a little more interested.
Oh my gosh, I'm so in on this. We talked about how the trailer looks like a Wes Anderson movie. It's currently sitting at 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, but of course it's not even out.
If you trust Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I would trust them with everything except for my health care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or a job.
Oh, yeah. Or, well, I don't know what I stepped in, but let me...
They're a Versant company. Let's just remember that.
No. Okay.
They are now officially a Versa company. But yeah, that all kidding aside, that is a high score there. So very, very, very good reviews for Wonder Man. Just saying. All right, shall we then move on to the buried treasure?
Indeed.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Buried Treasure, of course, the segment of the show where we talk about stuff we've been watching with the idea that that might help you figure out something to watch as well. Brian, what you watching?
Oh my gosh, I finally got all the way caught up on Fallout Season 2.
Yay. And you were a little skeptical after the first episode, I remember. How are you feeling now?
Now we're getting into some actual meat.
Not just the dog.
Yes, that's correct. Not just dog meat. Okay. Let me just get it out of my head. I don't know why they cast Kumail Nanjiani in there. I don't know why he was playing that role. I was uncomfortable with like, where are we going here? And then when he died or appeared to die, sorry, spoilers. Also, who knows who's dead and not in this universe? I was like, okay, good. Now let me get back to interesting stuff.
Was it because he's Kumail Nanjiani? Not because you dislike him, but because you couldn't stop thinking, oh, that's Kumail Nanjiani? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
yes. And when you come to know somebody as self-deprecating and identifying as a geek, but you're also distracted because he got super muscly, but also in his stand-up comedy, he's claiming that they didn't expect him to get super muscly. He just did it on its own, and it was a big wacky mix-up, and that's why he's super buff now and alpha bro. And I guess that's why he's just playing this alpha bro. Okay, all of these things are thoughts that I were having that were not Fallout. They didn't belong. All these thoughts that were rattling around, they were not Fallout thoughts, and I was glad that they exited my Fallout experience, which I freaking loved. I love. Oh my God, how much better is Hank McLean as a scene-chewing camp supervillain? Like no ambiguity the entire time. He's twisting his mustache as he does all this stuff. I loved bringing back the traveling salesman Ghoul. I loved seeing more develop with Lucy is interesting. I don't know. I'm loving it. It's great.
I like that we are seeing Lucy's character changed, right? It would be unbelievable that these experiences wouldn't change her character, but they are not changing in linear ways. They are not changing like, okay, and so she will slowly make compromises. They are like going 0 to 100 in some categories and not budging at all in others. And I find that fascinating.
I really like it. Absolutely adore the way they showed her addiction to buff out. It's exactly the way it is in the game, where it's like, oh, well, I don't like this at all. No, I've decided I won't be addicted anymore. And it's like, don't work that way, sweetheart. And then it's like, suddenly she's jonesing. It's great.
Yeah. I also like the de-aged Kyle MacLachlan, mostly because he just looks like Agent Cooper from Twin Peaks in every one of those flashback scenes. I've got an entirely different thing to tell people about. This is a Korean drama on Netflix called Can This Love Be Translated? And on the face of it, I might be saying to you, this is a fun love story. And if you like that kind of romantic comedy, you're going to have a great time because it's a well-done one, because that is true. The premise of this is a woman is coming to Japan. Woman from Seoul is coming to Japan to confront her ex-boyfriend, and she can't speak Japanese to the woman that her ex-boyfriend is dating, and the ex-boyfriend isn't there. And there's this guy from Korea who speaks lots of different languages, and she runs into him. And there's your meet cute, right? Is like, oh, you speak all these languages and stuff. Then it becomes, she goes back. She's a struggling actor, it turns out. She goes back to Korea. She's in this really weird zombie movie that everyone's like, what is even the plot of this movie? It doesn't make any sense, but I guess Korea's known for zombie movies, so they let him make it. It turns out it becomes a huge hit after she falls from a building in shooting the very last scene. And this is when I knew this was a special TV show, because they show her fall. She hits the ground, like, oh crap, like she's going to be very injured. She wakes up, and she is in a room full of balloons. There are people like, oh, she woke up, and you don't know what happened. And they slowly reveal as if you're from her point of view. Like, wait, last thing I knew, I was shooting this crazy independent movie, and it would be too spoilery to tell you what happens, but it's delightful, the journey they take you on. Suffice to say, through the course of the plot, she becomes very successful. There was a joke about wanting this guy to follow her on Instagram, and she now is going, eventually becomes very popular and has lots of followers on Instagram, but he's still not one of them. I can't really explain it to you without being spoilery.
Well, I mean,
just how wonderful they are at subverting your expectation and telling a pretty straight ahead romantic comedy story that's great while telling you this bigger story about communication and what it means to be famous and how people communicate and talk to each other. That is pretty deep that you wouldn't expect from this kind of series.
So, and where can I see it?
This is on Netflix. It's called Can This Love Be Translated?
Yeah. Would you say that they're soulmates?
No, because they fall in love in Calgary.
Oh, whoops. All right. I just wanted to steal Vincent Veldkamp's joke.
Calgary mates, Vince.
They're just calling around.
At all. Yeah. No, it's also, it's shot in Calgary for a large part of it, which is gorgeous. Everybody's going to want to go visit Alberta now after seeing this, because it's just like fantastically shot and wonderful and gorgeous. And then they finish in Italy, which, no mistake, is also gorgeous as well. But the main guy who plays the translator had to learn all these languages for the movie. So there's some really fun behind the scenes stuff they put up on YouTube of him and his coach, his language coach, coaching him through how to not only say things properly, but say them with the right intonations and all of that. And they did an amazing job. You would never know, like, oh, he really didn't know these languages going in. They put a lot of work into that as well.
Right on.
Anyway, Can This Love Be Translated on Netflix? If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. You know, it's odd, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
We both have things that we do outside of Cordkillers. Sometimes when we're doing the show, it feels like this is the entire world. I
mean, actually, it does kind of. I think at one point we tried to tally up how many hundreds of hours we had spent together. I mean, it really is remarkable. But yeah, we have to feed our families and keep the lights on.
Yeah, I got to feed my dog. He's complaining about it right now.
Whose turn is it to pitch something that we're up to?
It's yours, Brian.
Oh, got it. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Here's what everyone can do. Get on the email list. Get on the email list. Get on the email list. If you head on over to signup.scamstuff.com, you know what you're going to get? Nothing. You're going to get on an email list. You know what I'm giving away? Nothing. You're thinking of gimme.scamstuff.com, where we give away something every week. That'll also get you on the email list. But the important thing is email is the last thread that the robots are trying to algorithmically separate the two of us. Why don't you strengthen our bond together? Just head on over to signup.scamstuff.com.
Do it now. All right, let's scan the horizon.
Yeah.
Send a scanning crew aboard.
Scanning the horizon!
Microdrama apps. Have we mentioned microdrama apps enough? Probably not enough. They are a crazy trend in Hollywood right now.
Microdrama apps?
Yeah. So microdramas are short little episodes, basically what Quibi was trying to do. And they have taken off. They are low effort content, but they follow all those rules of story that make you hang on the edge of your seat and want to watch the next one. And then people will pay, they'll start for free and then they'll pay to finish the series. They are poised to have a breakout year in the US. According to app intelligence firm App Figures, Real Short, which is a microdrama app, reached roughly $1.2 billion in gross consumer spending, up 119% over 2024. DramaBox made $276 million in gross consumer spending last year. That doubled its 2024 numbers. And TikTok just launched its own standalone microdrama app called Pine Drama. And then a bunch of Hollywood guys have gotten together and raised $14 million to start one called Gamma Time. When I was at the Digital Hollywood conference earlier this year, or I guess at the end of last year, microdramas were on everybody's lips. That's the hot new trend everybody thinks is happening, and people are spending money on them.
That is insane. I love when I find out that a whole subculture exists, and I also resent it because it means that algorithmically trapped yet again.
Netflix co-CEO Greg Peters said the company will continue to experiment and expand its vertical video offerings. Current test of clips from TV shows and movies in the mobile app will expand to include other types of content. Obviously, the video podcasts. We were talking about that earlier. And a new mobile user interface is coming later this year as well. One might expect, perhaps at some point, Netflix might purvey its own microdrama.
I totally believe it, man.
Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos and Warner Brothers Discovery Chief Strategy Officer Bruce Campbell are scheduled to testify before the United States Senate on February 3rd to answer questions about the agreed-upon deal for Netflix to buy Warner Brothers Studios and streaming business and talk about the antitrust implications of that. This is really performative. It's not like the Senate can approve or stop the deal. The people who can really approve or stop the deal are the shareholders of Warner Brothers, and Paramount is working really hard to make that deal change and let Paramount buy the whole thing. But because antitrust is an issue, and because people want to get reelected, and because this is a very well-known antitrust situation, we're going to see a Senate committee on it.
So weird. I'm so worried that if our source of the moving picture shows is all under the same manufacturer, they can artificially.
Well, and this is one of those, like, I've come out and I've looked at it and come to the conclusion of, like, I don't see a whole lot of consolidation here. Netflix is not in the business of making theatrical movies. They don't have the intellectual property that Warner Brothers has. And Warner Brothers, HBO Max is popular, but it and Netflix, if you don't count YouTube, my argument probably doesn't hold as much water, but if you count YouTube, it and Netflix are a very small fish in this. Netflix is a big fish. HBO Max is a small fish. So you could make an argument that, like, oh, it's HBO Max could be a competitor for it someday, but it doesn't seem as ironclad as some people in the Senate seem to think it is.
Yeah.
At least not to me. Samsung TV Plus's collection of fast channels grew by double digits last year, topping 100 million monthly active users on a global basis. Samsung TV Plus streaming hours increased 25% year over year. That of course has to do with the fact that it's on Samsung TVs, but there are people who don't have Samsung TVs or watching it. There have to be to make these numbers.
Yeah, I would be very curious, and these are going to be tricky numbers to find, but I wonder if there's a correlation between piracy numbers and fast channel explosions. Like, I question how much of fast channels rise is because of is content driven, and how much of it is frustration with premium service pricing and subscription fatigue.
I think there's definitely subscription fatigue is a huge part of that. I think also just ease of, like, oh, I don't have to log in. I can just watch something, and waterfall. Like, I don't have to make a choice. I don't have to scroll through your offering. I can just pick a channel and watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apple's F1 got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, which is unusual for a popcorn style blockbuster. Netflix scored a Best Picture nomination for Frankenstein and Train Dreams. K-pop Demon Hunters got nominated for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song. It'll probably win one or both of those. The 98th Annual Academy Awards are on March 15th. Conan O'Brien hosting, and it will still be on ABC. You may have heard it's moving to to YouTube. It will move to YouTube in 2029. So it's still going to be on ABC for a couple more years.
Now, the Oscars, the main story I had heard was that Sinners broke all the records for the most nominations. And Sinners, I can't help but notice that correlation, because Sinners is also a genre that you wouldn't expect to be nominated for so many Oscars, being a horror movie, essentially an independent horror movie.
I've seen so many stories call it horror adjacent since it got the nomination.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if people were doing that before, but I definitely noticed it afterwards.
Well, I almost wonder if Sinners' momentum primed people for, well, I mean, if we're breaking the seal on popcorn movies, it's a pretty good popcorn movie too.
Yeah. I mean, you do get nominations for, big Avengers gets a nomination, but usually not for Best Picture. I think
usually
that's
for
what people are noticing.
Stuff.
Yeah. I also think Apple might be getting a little pat on the back for playing nice and putting it in theaters for the window and all that. That might be part of this as well.
Yeah.
It is the Academy after. The latest TV spot for Christopher Nolan's adaptation of The Odyssey came out during the NFL playoffs this past weekend and showed Travis Scott. Rapper Travis Scott has a role in the movie. The movie comes out July 17th.
I did not catch this one. Did you see the trailer, Tom?
Yes, but
it didn't have any.
Would you?
Yeah.
And
okay. All right.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. Right. They didn't show the Cyclops. That's all that matters.
No. And it looks great. Seeing Travis Scott was cool. It was like, oh yeah, Travis Scott he's going to be great in his scene. But really that is the headline. It's like, oh, and you get to see what Travis Scott looks like in The Odyssey. There wasn't a whole lot else that was different from the previous trailer, at least in my eyes.
Yeah.
They also had a new trailer for Super Mario Galaxy that gives you your first look at Yoshi and Birdo. That movie now arriving April 1st. Previously it had been listed as April 3rd, just a couple of days earlier. I guess they wanted to have April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
And then I thought this last bit was interesting. Taika Waititi was at Sundance talking about his film at Sundance, but they got him talking about his Star Wars movie. And he said, and I'm quoting, "I'm just trying to go back and harness a little bit more of the fun from the original films, which is what I remember from them. The stakes are very high and there's serious things going on, but there's also a lot of fun to be had in those films. That's what I was trying to bring back. I was trying to work in a world that was a little bit separate because they've got so many things going on within that space. For me to do something there, it would need to be a little different and a little more of its own thing." That's a lot of words to say about a thing that people are wondering if you're actually still going to do or not.
Okay, I'm so thrilled that you said that at the end. I was just like, today I learned it's still a thing, I guess?
Yeah.
Question mark.
Now, we mentioned about Kathleen Kennedy announcing her eventual exit from Lucasfilm. And apparently she told Variety about that Waititi turned in a script and that she thinks it's hilarious and great, but it's not her decision, especially when I've got a foot out the door. So that sounds like Kennedy was saying like, yeah, he turned in a script. I don't know. Ask the people taking over. Ask Dave Filoni if it's going to turn into a movie because it's up to him. I get the sense that Waititi, if I had to read the tea leaves, is saying like, I turned in a script. I was trying to be funny. I feel like Dave Filoni doesn't think it's as funny or wants it to be different. And I'm not sure if I want to make it different, but we haven't killed it. So I'm saying all these words about funny and different and hoping that Dave Filoni hears them and goes like, okay, yeah, it could be funny and different. No problem.
Yeah. Well, and I think funny and different was better than to say, yo, remember how they screwed up Solo by not doing Lord and Miller? What if we didn't do it this time?
All right, let's move on to the chatter.
Got mail.
Nikki wrote in about Starfleet Academy, which, by the way, I've continued to watch and continued to enjoy 77% of the time. Every episode I've watched, there's one part of it where I'm like, oh, God, okay, we're really dragging here.
Oh, so
and then right about the time I feel that, I pop out of it and I'm like, oh, okay, no, it's getting good again. Nikki writes, I was happy to hear Tom was watching Starfleet Academy. I'm a 50-plus-year-old woman who watched the CW soap shows Gossip Girl, One Tree Hill, Vampire Diaries, Secret Circle, and The 100. And when I say I choked on the image I saw for the marketing of Starfleet Academy, it is an understatement. She sent us a picture of the Starfleet Academy picture with all of the students, all of the Academy members laying on the ground looking up, and put for comparison a similar image from One Tree Hill, where all the cast members of One Tree Hill are laying together on a bed looking up. Definitely one is evocative of the other.
Having seen the actual product, do you feel like that was part of? I don't know if is that a setup to the punchline or is it better being primed?
Let's continue with Nikki's email.
Okay, all right.
Before I get to that, Nikki says, I'm thinking, oh no, they made this for me and not my husband. My husband, who upon release would watch Discovery, Strange New World, and Lower Decks religiously, I wondered how it could not be thought of. Please tell me it was my algorithm. What images did you guys see for the shows? I did watch the first 2 episodes, but I'm really hoping it's great. I was worried that since it was stationary, it would be DS9 level of politics, drama, and such, but with the cast being mostly pre-adults, I'm hoping we won't go too far into drama without the weight. Thanks for killing those chords, Nikki. I think that the marketing image you got was done on purpose, and that probably an algorithm knew that and served that image, and there were multiple marketing algorithms because I don't remember seeing it, but it definitely fits it. I don't think I would say that Starfleet Academy is the One Tree Hill or even the Gossip Girl or Vampire Diaries of Star Trek, but it's certainly the closest to those that they've ever made.
So is it more like DS67?
Yeah, that's not a thing anymore, Brian.
Oh, no, sorry. In fact, it never was a thing, and I'm ashamed of anybody who thought it was.
Disgusting. No, man. It does stray into those territories, and I assume it strays into those territories on purpose. Sometimes when it does, I'm like, yeah, no, fine. This is a bunch of college kids. Like they should act like that, right? Sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, can we get through this and get back to the plot of the story? But most of the time, I'm enjoying it. I was worried it would be too much like Star Trek Discovery when Discovery was not at its best. And it was a little bit like Star Trek Discovery at its mediumest in the first episode. And since then, I don't feel any of that at all. Feels like it really has got its own voice. And it's still kind of finding it, but it's finding its own voice. It does have Tig Notaro, who was in Star Trek Discovery and is a national treasure. My only complaint really about Starfleet Academy is that they need to have Tig Notaro on screen more often. That is the one thing I will say. Okay. With that said, Ander writes, hey guys, I just wanted to express how much I've enjoyed each of the cartoon shows you've done. I know you're going to move away from them for a while to keep variety and such. Of course, he's responding to the full experience where we've done Gargoyles, we've done Star Trek, the animated series. He says, but please make your way back at some point. And when you do, please reconsider He-Man. Even if you don't, just know I've been loving the cartoons.
Yeah, I like that it's an interesting slice because, I guess also Speed Racer, we can't help but kind of track in its cultural significance because I felt like the fact that Speed Racer ended up in America straight to syndication basically, and that it was, the introduction of anime to an entire, Western hemisphere. It was, I'm glad that those are landing for you, Ander.
Yeah. And thanks, Andrew, for understanding that we are trying to keep a variety of things, but we will definitely try to get back to He-Man at some point. I think that would be fun as well. Ryan, talking about the full experience of Star Trek, the animated series, wanted to note that the fanfare at the start of Star Trek Lower Decks appears to reference the animated series theme in much the same way that TNG, DS9, and Voyager referenced the Alexander Courage original series theme.
Interesting. We'll have to listen to that, maybe an after talk.
Yeah. And then Andrew would like us to watch Sanford and Son on the full experience. He said, I must have only caught it on Nick at Night or some other rerun in the 90s. I was reminded of it when someone in a group chat was being over dramatic, and I felt compelled to respond with Fred clutching his heart. I wonder if it holds up at all. I only remember it for that one recurring bit, but I'm sure it had more. I'm coming, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll definitely add it to the list. And finally, James C. Smith writes, hey, Brian, I was enjoying Cordkillers until you mentioned Smack My Bitch Up.
By Prodigy.
At that point, I paused the podcast and played that song and had a great time. Anyway, I don't know how the podcast ended, but the song was great.
Yeah,
James
it is
from Irvine.
It is a great song. And the more I sit with that comparison, the more I like it. My comparison, of course, was that at the beginning of the 90s, we had Ice Ice Baby that was lazy sampling. And by the end of the 90s, we had Smack My Bitch Up, which is a masterpiece. Watch somebody. There are multiple videos on YouTube of people recreating that song from scratch, and it's incredible.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live at twitch.tv/Night Attack and youtube.com/Modern Rogue Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time. I reckon we'll talk to you next time.